I believe we're good.
Well, good evening, everybody. Tonight we have our special meeting agenda for the board, May 20th at 6 o'clock. And in compliance with Public Act 100-0640, SB 2135, I've determined that an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent because of the current COVID-19 pandemic disaster and associated building restrictions. Public access to the meeting is being provided remotely online or by phone. Additionally, the public comments can be submitted before the meeting to Gina at her email address for recitation into public record during public participation. And instructions were how to do that for the meeting tonight. So with that in mind, we'll call the meeting to order. And Rebecca, would you like to do the roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Sherwood.
Here.
Mr. Gross.
Here.
Mr. Cadwallader.
Here.
Mrs. Cole.
Here.
Mrs. Hanks. Mrs. Humphrey.
Here.
Mr. Laswell.
Okay, we'll move along to public participation. And Gina, did you receive any emails prior to the meeting?
I did not receive any emails, phone calls, letters. I received no public participation.
Okay, thank you. Well, we will move along to the agenda review. Any comments about the agenda review for tonight? Okay, hearing none, we will move along to the action item 2021-0501. Approval of support for city request of extension of West Washington Street Tax Increment Financing District. And we need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. And second.
I'll second it.
Okay. And Rebecca, need a roll call vote, please.
Is there any discussion before we vote?
Or any discussion, rather.
Do you want me to summarize or anything along the lines of that? Do you want to summarize?
I think you know quite a bit more than me. Are we ready for discussion? Would you go ahead?
So this is just related to the city's request. The city has to have written permission before a state would grant a request to extend a TIF district deadline or expiration date. They will need to gather that from all taxing bodies that it affects. They are seeking our approval of an extension of the expiration of the West Washington Street district. It's currently scheduled to expire in 2037, and they're asking for a 12-year extension. This will be the second 12-year extension on that TIF district due to the fact that they're looking to sort out some things with the residential retail development. So they have proposed the details that I included in the information related to reimbursing the increment collected on existing property, all properties in the TIF except for the one residential retail development here adjacent to the library in city land upon its original expiration or current expiration of 2037. I know it's confusing. That was a lot, but hopefully my summary did it justice in my written summary.
Why wasn't?
Oh, go ahead, Alan. I'm sorry.
Okay. Was it basically set up for 2037 and the city knew about it a few years ago that it could have been, then it could be extended more years?
Well, so it was originally, it has already had one 12-year extension. I believe the original one that was set up was, it's already had one extension. That's what brought it to 2037. Okay. They're seeking a second extension. I don't know if that quite answered your question.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's a sentence in the email you got from John Call. How do you pronounce his last name? Call? K-O?
Call, yes, call.
Call. And it says this: should the General Assembly approve an extension, the city will, as of the current expiration date, distribute to all taxing districts all tax increment resulting from increased assessed value tied to existing development and retain only that new tax increment that would result from the increased assessed value.
Mhm.
Do I understand that correctly, that we would get revenue from the previous TIF, the expired TIF, just not the new TIF?
Correct. I also, from our phone conversations, that was one of the things I wanted to clarify, and that's kind of why I wrote that email back after our conversations to say, these are the things that we clarified, do I have them correct? So the existing West Washington TIF boundaries are currently set to expire in 2037. They are specifically looking to extend this TIF to help facilitate this residential retail development. So their proposal is extend the whole TIF, because you can't just do like one lot of it. But the original expiration or the current expiration of 2037, any increment that they take in from properties in the TIF other than this residential retail will be distributed annually to the taxing districts from 2037 to we'll take payable 2038 through payable 2050. So we would, if they wouldn't be extending the TIF, we would have started receiving property taxes from the properties that are in the expired TIF. Because the TIF is being extended, they're saying we will give you the increment, we will distribute the increment like it was taxes for those properties. So we're not really, they're doing their best to make us whole under the original schedule.
And you said that this is the second time they're asking us to extend a TIF. There was an original TIF, and now was there another one, and now there's a third one?
Right. So my understanding is the West Washington Street TIF was established in 2002, and it was a 23-year TIF. So it would have expired, 2025. And then then somewhere along the line, you must have gone through this process once, I'm assuming.
Okay.
And they asked for a 12-year extension. So that's what puts it to the 2037 expiration.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm not sure, because I'm not a TIF expert, if there's always been the ability to double extend a TIF, but apparently that's allowed now. And I'm not sure if it's just something recent that they're allowing, or if it has something to do with current circumstances. I'm not really sure if a double extension has always been the case, but it seems to be a thing that's up for discussion and with the legislator right now. So yes, this would be the second time it's been extended.
So my question or my concern isn't so much this is the second extension.
Mm-hmm.
My question goes back to, so were we distributed tax revenue when the first one expired, from the first one expiring? Just like it says, we're going to, when the second one expires, we're only not going to get the revenue from the third TIF.
Okay, I am not aware of any sort of agreement between the city and us or any other taxing districts for distribution of increment with the first extension.
All right. Okay. And I don't expect you to know all this. It's just questions that come to mind.
That didn't come up. Phil's been our attorney a long time too. He didn't and not that I expect him to remember everything either, but that was, I'm not aware of any sort of agreement that way.
We
And
still
the only
have was
reason I-
2 years left, or a few years left, right? 2025 would be when that would happen.
Right, but
Right, so-
I can definitely look, but it has not been part of any of the current discussions. I'm going with the presumption that it's not there, but I will definitely check.
Well, I was just really kind of surprised when I read that paragraph and it said that they would distribute to us all tax increment resulting from the increased assessed value from the second tax increment. And
Mhm.
then, and it's only the third one that we're agreeing not to be taxed on. I was just kind of surprised to read that. And then I just wondered, okay, so what about the first one? And I don't expect you to know the answer to that. My other question is, so do all the taxing bodies have to say yes to this in order for them to pursue this?
That is my understanding, yes.
And are they
I
anticipating?
believe any, I believe they kind of have, I believe the city has to request the legislator to add it onto a bill at this point, and that he'll agree to do that if the taxing bodies are in support of it.
All right.
That those taxing bodies that are, essentially affected by it said, okay. And so the city has proposed the distribution agreement. That is not necessarily part of what has to go to the legislature. That is just what the city is offering to try to make the other taxing bodies as whole as possible, and for the extension not to be a detriment to them.
Okay. And I don't suppose anybody has applied dollar amounts to any of this. I mean, do we even have any idea what we're talking about dollar-wise?
I can get that from you. I got some of the TIF stuff. It's hard to tell because I don't necessarily know what the assessed value will be in 2037. What else will have been built or anything like that.
And they may
I can tell you what, I could go back and do the math to tell you what that value is, like, what we did, didn't do then. That being said, without the TIF, who knows what of this down here would have been developed. Which we will eventually, see income from.
Yeah, I don't expect you to do all that. I just wondered if that was just readily available. And don't you need this letter by tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just asking questions, and I don't expect you to be a TIF expert.
I've learned a lot.
Wondered what kind of information they had given you. And all right, I'll be quiet now, and other people can weigh in. I'm wondering what everybody thinks. I mean, are we just assuming we're all going to go along with this?
Do you mean the board here, or do you mean other taxing districts?
No, the board here.
Oh, okay.
Alan, has this been your?
Well, we will find out
your
when we do.
assumption?
We'll know when we do a roll call vote, but I also had another question, maybe not along the order of what you had, but are they wanting to, the people that are doing the project, are they wanting to delay it maybe due to they foresaw serious increase of cost of building, and they need more time they want to wait till the markets go down for everything concerned to build? Is that why?
I can't speak to that exactly. I got the impression that the project is a bit delayed potentially due to, pandemic reasons or whatever. But that is a little bit more delayed than where they thought. And so that was the reason for the request of the extension, and had to do with some various financing things and such.
Well, when you have all the 233 apartments and how many cards, how many library cards, didn't you have on here, how many dollars per card? Or I saw something about it. What was the 100 and some?
That is a separate issue, particularly than what is the city needs or the city's agreement. If and when the residential complex is completed, because it is a residential a residential development within a TIF district, Illinois law does allow library districts and school districts to apply to the TIF for reimbursement for services. But it is not based on library cards issued, but library card eligibility. And that's what that ILA summary sheet was. But it's separate than what the city's proposing here. I just brought it there as an option so that you were aware of an option that would be available later on.
They won't have to pay any taxes for quite some time then, right?
Who's that? The owner of the residential?
The owner of the property.
They pay the taxes, but the difference, because it's in a TIF district, the taxes don't become distributed. They go into the TIF for the development of the TIF district.
My understanding is we get a flat, whatever we were getting at the increase, or at the beginning of the TIF district, my understanding is we get a flat rate based on what our taxable income, our taxable body was at that time. Property taxes go up in the TIF district during that 23-year period. We still get the same amount, but the increased amount, so say our portion of the taxes was 40 grand at the beginning of the TIF district. We get 40 grand every year. But if the TIF goes up to say 44 grand because the value of the property went up to 44 grand, that extra $4,000 does not go to us. It goes back in the TIF and is redistributed or used towards the development. It's my understanding of how it works, Alan.
Right. So if you think about it, when the West Washington TIF was developed, whatever the dollars that we would get are levied against a value that was frozen of when the TIF district was developed.
Okay.
So any improvements on it, the tax that's paid on improvements and increased value, those taxes go into the TIF to support development and, that district.
Okay, that's very helpful what you and Ron just said.
Okay.
Anybody else have
like the tax that we would get off of something, like if in 2002 it was an empty lot, we're still, and now it has target on it, we get the tax. Right now we're getting taxes valued at an empty lot, because the increased value of that property came after the fact, and the taxes from the increased value stay within the TIF fund.
And when does that end? I mean, that's not what we're talking about in this residential TIF, right?
Well, it will end in payable 2050.
Say that again, please.
It will end payable 2050 for that specific lot, the residential retail development.
Okay, so, but the target TIF doesn't end in 2050. What you're voting on is saying, yes, that will end in 2050, but starting at the original expiration, payable 2038, the TIF will no longer keep that
those levies from the increased assessed value. That's when they'll start distributing like they would, just as if that TIF had ended.
Okay, I was fine until you threw Target in.
I shouldn't have brought up Target.
Okay,
Well, I mean,
I'm good.
Colleen, we're in the target TIF either way till 2039 or
Right,
whatever it
that's
is.
fine.
But once
Okay.
that TIF ends in 2039, then that extra TIF revenue that's generated between 2039 and 2050, the city could then hold back and redistribute to use how it wanted to.
They're offering to.
That gets
distribute it to us.
redistributed to all the taxing bodies instead of being held back by the city.
Okay,
So this new TIF doesn't have an effect on what happens really after 2039 with that. I mean, we're still going to get that money redistributed. Is that
Okay.
right? And that's the way I read it, right, Gina?
Right. The
Yeah.
only thing that
Yeah.
was really going to change and what you're really agreeing to is saying, we agree to extend the TIF and we know we are not going to get money distributed on this specific residential retail development until 2050. But
Okay.
if the TIF if we don't agree, there is also the likelihood that it will put a big kink in that residential retail development even happening, in which case we're not going to get anything anyway.
Yeah.
So it
Right.
really probably behooves us in the long run, as difficult as even for me to like think like 2050, oh my God, to participate and agree in this, because that development it's good for the city in the long run. It's good for the library in the community, and from a
It also will increase the value of the property around it that's not in the TIF district. We'll then see an increase in property tax, I would assume, based on the increase in value, and then that would funnel back to us too, Colleen. So, I mean, it's a vacant lot we don't benefit from, or we agree to the TIF and we benefit from the surrounding property taxes going up that aren't in the TIF district for the next 29 years, and then in 2050 we see a real benefit from it when the TIF expires.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
yeah.
Ron, yeah, you're helping a lot.
thank you. Doing my best. Is there any
Well-
other questions?
Will we vote before we leave, or right after? Will we vote then leave the action item then?
Well, you're
We'll
within
need
the
to vote.
action item. At this point, you're just, if the discussion is over, you can call for a roll call vote if that's
Okay,
what everyone, if there is no other discussion.
all right. Is there any other discussion before we do a roll call vote? Okay, well, Rebecca, here we go.
All right, Mr. Sherwood,
Yes?
Mr. Gross,
Yes.
Mr. Cadwalader,
Mr. Cadwalader, you're muted.
Yes.
Mrs. Cole,
Yes.
Mrs. Humphrey,
Yes.
Okay, sounds like motion has carried.
Very good.
And
Alan, so the letter that was in your packet, I will have one printed out, but I would request that you and I somehow meet up, and
Yep.
I need to get that signed so I can pass it to the city tomorrow.
okay, yeah, well, I can meet tomorrow morning sometime.
Okay,
Sure.
very good.
All right. Well, are there any other closing comments before we depart? All right, need a motion for adjournment until May 24th, coming right up.
Miss
I
me.
won't
Holy
make
Monday.
the motion.
Yeah, we'll do it. Was there
I'll
a
make the
motion?
motion.
Okay,
All right, I'll second it,
And-
Gary. I'll second it. That's fine.
all right. And roll call vote?
You're muted too.
sorry, yeah, my button got stuck. Mr. Sherwood,
Yes?
Mr. Gross,
Yes.
Mr. Cadwalader,
Yes.
Mrs. Cole,
Yes.
Mrs. Humphrey.
Yes.
All right, sounds like the motion carried. It was excellent discussion tonight. And Gina, I'll see you in the morning, and everybody else will see each other in a few more days.
Very
Thank
efficient,
you.
guys. You got me out here 3 minutes early, so thank you.
Bye.
All right, Jay.
We'll see you guys Monday.
All right.
Bye.